Welcome. My name is Amber Beebe, and I'm a clinical dietitian here at St. Luke's Bariatric Nutrition Department, and I'm happy to record this Bariatric Healthy Living class series on gut health. Today is number one of the series. There's four. They're about 20 to 30 minutes in length, and I'm just so excited to be teaching this series that I researched and worked very hard to develop because it's something near and dear to my heart because I've had gut issues and IBS for most of my life. So welcome, and this is what we're going to be doing today. So we don't need to go over meeting reminders because we're recording it. So here's kind of our schedule, the outline. You don't have to look at the dates. Obviously, those are in the past. We taught this in July live. But today we're going to talk about what is the gut microbiome, right? And then the rest of the time, we're going to talk about how gut health affects weight management, your gut and inflammation and stress, and nurturing your gut for long-term weight loss. So as always, when you see this information, since you're not in a live class, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and send us an email. I'll have our email at the end to bariatricsupport@slhs.org, and we can get you any information that you may be having a question about it. So, all right. So here's the thing. Let's try to visualize this. A busy city. This is such a great AI picture here of it looks to be like a New York City. People on the sidewalks, a busy weekday morning, so many cars trying to get to work that they're almost stopped on the connecting roadways, right? Now imagine this all in a microscopically small level, and this you can start to understand what the microbiome is, or called microbiota or microbes. It includes thousands of species in your gut. It's not only bacteria, but fungi, parasites, and viruses. In a healthy person, these bugs or this traffic, these people in cars and buses, they coexist peacefully with the largest number of microbes found in the small and large intestine. So think about how we all coexist together. I mean, even driving into Boise, right, on the freeway, we're all paying attention for the most part, right? We're all coexisting and making safe and calculated moves and really trusting each other. This is how we can think about our gut. Most of the time, it's good guys. And then the population of bad guys or misfits increases if we have an infection or we take antibiotics or we're eating a lot of processed foods. And you can see how this can really disrupt our gut. And when the balance of bad bugs or bad guys outpopulates us good guys, right, or good bugs, then what we have is called dysbiosis, or our gut is out of balance. So there are 10 trillion to 100 trillion microbes on the human body, with the majority of them living in our gut. And so this term microbiome refers to this collection of bacteria, yeast, other microorganisms that live inside the digestive system. So not surprising that with this many microbes living inside of our bodies that they're so connected to our health. And so we've got helpful microbes and harmful microbes. And most of them are working together, like we said, in this traffic picture of healthy, balanced, and then, but when there's a disturbance with illness and certain diets, that's when we want to understand that our bodies are more susceptible to disease. So today we will be covering these skills. Recognize what the gut microbiome is based on examples, right? And understand the definition and impact of our gut microbiome to our health, and interpret the level that you have on this topic and your prior knowledge, right? So by the end of this class, you'll be able to recognize and better understand what the words gut microbiome mean, and you'll be able to understand the definition of how our lifestyle, really everything that we do, and upbringing can impact this gut microbiome. And finally, interpret at the level of your prior knowledge as we get ready for next session that is specifically about how our gut affects weight management. So and since it's not a live class, I'm not going to ask some of these questions that I have, and that's okay. All right, so the definition, again, we talked about this, the 10 trillion to 100 trillion on the human body, and with the majority of them living in our gut. It is a collection of the bacteria, the yeast, and other microorganisms that live inside your digestive system. So again, it's helpful, it's potentially harmful in our gut. And so that picture of that busy city, most of the time, people are behaving themselves and working well together. But sometimes we hear of some of these cities that kind of are going downhill. I've heard a lot, maybe not as much lately. Maybe I don't pay attention to the news as much, but I feel like Chicago was not, there was an imbalance there and maybe continues to be where there is more of the bad bugs, bad guys, taking over. Maybe law isn't, maybe we've, fired too many police officers. So we don't have this balance of what we need to have. And this is an example. It's a funny example, I realize, but to show you what it means in your gut, because it does make a difference. So highly processed foods. I mean, a lot of us eat a lot of junk. I mean, let's be real. This is not something that's going to be feeding the good bugs in our bodies as well as what they need to have. So, and here's the craziest thing. The most of the time, our microbiome develops in the first 3 years of life. So it's significantly affected by what happens during this time. So the colonization of the gut begins in pregnancy. So once a baby is born, their microbiome is further shaped by gestational age when they were born, type of birth, whether cesarean or vaginal, breastfeeding versus formula, maternal nutrition status, and the timing and introduction of foods. By 3, they have fully developed gut microbiomes. It also can be affected by things we cannot control: age, birth mode, and whether or not we were breastfed or bottle fed. Obviously, we can't control that as adults, right? I was bottle fed. I had a ton of ear infections. I was on a lot of antibiotics. So my gut really was messed up, right? And from the beginning. And I didn't know that most of my life. So until recently, learning how to heal my gut and eat more whole foods and all those sorts of things, you just don't know, right? And yeah. Another thing that I found interesting, and I don't know if it's on this slide, I don't think so, but I find it interesting when you grow up in a family where, like my husband, with 3 boys, all touching on each other and, playing in the dirt and not washing our hands like crazy. I was an only child, so I didn't have other people touching on me and giving me all those good bugs that were found in the dirt, right? So I was not saying I was like the bubble. When I grew up, there was a kid that would get sick with everything, and he lived in like a bubble. So I wasn't like that, but a lot cleaner without a bunch of kids touching me all the time. So anyway, this is how our microbiome is impacted. So these are some pictures of some joyous times and some not so joyous times, right? So times of celebration and happiness, challenging times, antibiotic use, food environment. What type of food environment are we living in? Right now, it's quite damaging with door dashing McDonald's to our front doors to, walking into a Jackson's and having just all kinds of high carbohydrate processed foods. So, and even though it can develop early, we can change it and we can improve it through life. It is a living organism, our gut, and affected by the types of foods that we eat. The stress, maybe you don't need antibiotics for this latest cold that you have, even though the medical community says you do, maybe you don't. So we want to be very aware. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't take antibiotics, because if you actually have like strep throat and you need antibiotics. But for example, I recently had a cold and kind of turned into a sinus infection. I don't know if it was a sinus infection. I think it was. And I just kind of waited it out and drank lots of fluids and took care of myself and did not take antibiotics, right? So that's just one way that I can make that choice to improve my gut. It can't always work that way, right? Can't always work that way. So how can we improve our gut? So this is important, right? The picture on the left, might be your right, is all of the processed, like the donuts, the cupcakes, the candies, the chips, the sodas. These are all highly, highly processed foods. And so how we can improve our gut health is by moving towards less sugary foods and more towards whole foods. chicken breast, avocado, carrots, broccoli, tomatoes, some nuts there, some seeds, right? If you need to take antibiotics, then you need to replenish with some good bacteria from live cultured foods like yogurt. Greek yogurt is better, less sugary. The ones you want to find are like low sugar Greek yogurt or kimchi, if you've ever had that, or sauerkraut, or take a probiotic, right? Or you can get like, what other cultured foods? There's one that I'm drawing a blank on. Anyway, there are ways that you can replenish. Oh, kefir. There's, drinkable kefir now that's very helpful. Those of you that aren't big yogurt fans like myself. And it's quite nice to have that just to keep those good bugs coming back after long term or 10 days, let's say, of antibiotics. And then increasing our fiber, non-digestible carbohydrates, that's what fiber is, in our diet can be quite beneficial. Okay. How does our gut bacteria help us, right? Why do we care about our gut bacteria? It can help us harvest inaccessible nutrients or energy from the diet. So this is really important, right? It assists in the synthesis of vitamins, the bacteria in our gut. It supports the metabolism of medications and increases absorption of these medications. It assists in the gut cell renewal process, right? I mean, there's just a lot of great things about gut bacteria. It also acts as a barrier in our gut to things that hurt our gut or pathogens. And it also helps produce short chain fatty acids, which we will talk more about what that really means and why that is beneficial. Okay. So journey to understanding your unique microbiome. So where are you now, right? How does your gut work? Are you having any digestive systems, gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, sleep disturbances at night? Maybe you have some mood or emotional state, high stress or low mood, anxiety, high frequency of infections such as the common cold. So, kind of assess, where am I with my gut health? And then encouraging you to continue with these recordings, taking our healthy living course. There's 4. So learning more about the gut microbiome can be really helpful. And then can we actually heal our gut, right? Climbing the mountain to heal. So things that affect our guts, and this is again where people don't realize how important all of these things are. And of course, it ties into weight management in our next session, but that's stress, getting too little of sleep, lack of physical activity, not exercising actually affects our gut. So we want to make sure we're getting enough exercise. Eating too many processed foods definitely affects our gut. Smoking and drinking alcohol or taking antibiotics. So understanding those things that we can make a difference on, that's how we can heal our gut. And then other things start to get better. Everything starts to fall in place. So as we leave today, I know it's a short class for really just an intro, right? An intro to this topic. We are excited to offer our next Healthy Living series, number 2, on how our gut health affects weight management. Well, we'll talk more about some of those items that we briefly touched on today. And there's a lot of new research that talks about how important normal and healthy gut function helps us lose weight and keep it off. Okay. We don't have any questions, right? Because we're going to be on video, but we have a 4th of July, like happy 4th of July, which, right, we are not, we're in October, but I thought our email was on here. I apologize. It's bariatricsupport@slhs.org, or you can always go to St. Luke's Bariatric Nutrition website and give us a call if you have any questions. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.